Hello, sunshine. You come again to greet me this morning. Rays of gold. You keep everything a-growing. The miracle of life, it beams all around. Ah, it's a beautiful day. I took a little walk. I saw a clear stream running, forgot my thoughts. All around life was coming through an open window into my soul. Ah, it's a beautiful day. On a planet spinning around, I stand in the midst of forever. All of the sounds of this life I treasure. God acts is great. This world is good. There is peace in these gentle woods. Hello, sunshine. You come again to greet me this morning. Rays of gold. You keep everything a-growing. The miracle of life, it beams all around. Ah, it's a beautiful day. The miracle of life, it beams all around. Ah, it's a beautiful day.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing... I'm kind of chuckling because everyone knows I was just dealing with last-minute stuff once again, including, I noticed that as bright as it is, we might have the lights on. Thank you, Todd. Todd Milne was also working on stuff to the last minute here, but so far we got the gremlins at bay. So let me start again. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. Very glad you're here today. As always, we begin by embracing all that you bring with you today, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that makes you who you are is welcome. And this, of course, includes those who hear me wholeheartedly say this each Sunday, as well as those, which, by the way, is why I stopped myself a while ago, because I did want to say it wholeheartedly and not be rushed. So. I say it every Sunday. It is part of our ritual, but it is never ritualistic. It is very meaningful. Very glad that you're here, whether you are among our regular members or maybe joining us for the first time. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks to everyone in the room with us. I mentioned Todd Milne, who is running our audio-visual as usual today and helping us keep the gremlins at bay as well. Thank you for that. Actually, we took a little bit of break from hearing your introit music today, as I understand it. One of our church members, Paul Grove, actually wrote and performed the song Hello Sunshine. Or did he write that, or is that? He did write that. Yeah, those are his. That is wonderful. Yeah, he's a very talented musician. And we've heard him play his guitar here on several occasions, but this is the first time I've actually heard him sing. We might have to make that a must from now on, Paul, if you're checking us out. Wonderful, man. Thank you so much. What a wonderful start to our service this morning. And we're going to get to hear more from Paul. By the way, he just finished a CD. And he dropped them by for Deb and I, and so Deb asked his permission to use them in today's service, so you're going to get to enjoy some more of his music. So Paul Grove is with us in spirit and certainly with us in voice and talent today. And Darrell Vanderlinden is also here, running our slideshow for us, and is also going to be speaking a little bit, offering our generosity moment. So we're looking forward to that. And Barbara Nelson is here as our lay leader this morning. Always great to have you. Thank you so much. Yep. Great to have you. Michelina Tyree, our talented pianist, thank you for being here. Always good to have you. And last but not least, I just sort of make the circle, so Deb Jackman always seems like she's last, but she's not least by any means. Next week I'll try, or actually I won't be here next week, but I'll go around the other direction sometimes. How's that? Just to be fair. And those of you who are the middle children will always be in the middle, though. That's the problem with that. Yes, well, great to have all of you. Let's see, a couple of announcements here. Really great start to our Wednesday night book study of Irshad Manji's book, Don't Label Me. And that's going to be continuing for the next 6 weeks, culminating actually with Irshad Manji herself speaking with us on that 7th week in the series. So I hope that you'll participate in that, even if you've not been able to do so far. It would be great. Yeah, it is our generosity month, so we're going to have our generosity moment in just a couple of seconds. But first, I think we'll take time this morning for you to greet one another, as has become our custom by whatever means you're used to doing that. But it's always great to hear from each other for just a few seconds on Sunday morning and know that we're sharing this experience together. So please take a moment or two to let somebody you're thinking of know that you're thinking of them. Thank you, and thank you, Michelina. It is Generosity Month during April, in which we ask you to go online and make a pledge of support to our congregation and towards its ministry over the coming year. It's really important to have an idea of what kind of income we can expect, we can rely upon as we prepare the coming year's budget. So thank you so much for participating in this. I think we're at about 30% of our pledges have come in so far, which is a great start. So thank you all for doing that, and hope the rest of you will do so as well in the next couple of weeks. So it would be wonderful. But we also like to give some of our members an opportunity to talk a little bit about what the congregation means to them, and why they contribute to it during this time. And today we're very grateful, as I mentioned earlier, to have Darrell Vanderlinden come and share a few thoughts with us.
Thanks, Todd. I'm here to speak to you today about the generosity campaign for the church. The past year has been difficult and a challenge for all of us. We have all missing interactions with family and friends and other church members due to the coronavirus. We have lost loved ones. During this time, most of us have probably dealt with the anxiety of uncertainty. I know I have. We did not know how the virus was going to affect us, nor how long it would last. When we are anxious or uncertain, we may find it difficult to be generous. But now we have a reason to be hopeful. We can foresee a more certain future, a time when we can be with friends and family and church members again. I believe that as our lives return to a more normal rhythm, we will find it easier to be generous with each other and with the mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. We can be generous knowing that Todd and Deborah and Rebecca and the Board of Trustees and many others carried on through the last year to make it possible for all of us to still have a liberal religious home. In that context, I would encourage everyone to help sustain this church by renewing and increasing the pledge for the next year. As Todd said, we have received about a third of the pledges from the congregation's household so far. Be sure to read the letter about our campaign that was emailed to you, or read about it in the Sun, and click to make an online pledge. Please remember, we have only 2 weeks left in our campaign to pledge our support for the church we love. If the generosity team doesn't hear from you, they plan to call you to assure your current pledge is ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darrell, for your generosity and generosity of spirit and those empathic words, I think, for all of us today. And it has been extraordinary that we've been able to get through this, or we're getting through this, and it seems like a real light at the end of the tunnel. We're planning on resuming in-person services starting May 9th, and hoping that we can really get back to normal within a month of that start time, probably by the end of June or so. So things are definitely looking up, and appreciate your generosity and continued support of this church. It means a lot to all of us, I know. So thank you so much. And now we will go ahead and have our chalice lighting, another important part of our Sunday ritual. Chalice being the symbol of our faith, of our unity, of our solidarity, of our openness, and our inclusion in our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world, and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
The opening reflection today is by Erica Hewitt on learning to be more human. Welcome to this beautiful morning, this day, this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. The Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn about being human. We're not here because we are figured out life's questions or because we think we got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion for one another. Let us move into worship, willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and open to connection in all its forms.
Thank you so much for those opening words, Barbara. The only thing I would add is we not only come here to learn those, but we learn them through practice. That's how we learn here, and we put those very principles into practice. So thank you for that excellent reminder. Yeah, we're actually going to move now into our candles of care. So I did not receive any specific requests for candles this morning, but I know there are an awful lot of people on our hearts and minds, whether they are people that we personally know or people around the world who we know are suffering at this time. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of these and others that you might be thinking of at this time. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. A reminder that we do have a special collection this month. Our special collection, again, is on behalf of the Spokane NAACP and its mission to promote civil rights and social justice for people of color and to support equality for others marginalized by ethnicity, religion, culture, age, sexual orientation, and so forth, both in our local community and in our world at large. As I've been saying all month, there's no reason for me to really beseech your support for this important organization because I know it's something that we've partnered with and supported for a long time. So I can only thank you in advance for your continued generosity to the Spokane NAACP and ask that you, if you are ready to donate, willing to donate, able to donate, you can simply send a check to the church signifying what it is for, or go online to our donations button and do the same there. So again, thank you so much for your kindness and your generosity. And we are now going to have our story for all ages. Let me shuffle some papers around here. There we go. Oh my goodness, look who it is. An old friend, but geez, it's good to see you, Mickey Mouse. It's great to see you too. Well, thank you. It seems like you were here not too long ago, weren't you? Yes. Oh yeah, yes, that's true. We did have some technical difficulties that day. I see, and you're kind of afraid that maybe people might have missed your bit, huh? Yes, I did. I'm such a showman. You are a showman. Well, anyway, it's always great to see you, even if you were here recently. It's never too often, Mickey Mouse. Thank you. Well, so where have you been, by the way? Oh, I've just been hanging out at home. Hanging out at home? Yep, in Disneyland. Disneyland. Well, that sounds great. Who were you hanging out with? Dare I ask? Anyone we know? Of course. Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and the rest of the gang. Well, that sounds more like it. And I tell you, if you've got to be stuck anywhere at this time, I think Disneyland sounds like a great place to be stuck. Any place is great as long as you're with friends. Well, that's true, Mickey Mouse. And what I appreciate most about you is that you always have a positive outlook. Glad you think so, because that's why I'm here today, to cheer everyone up. Well, wonderful. It has been a long year, as Darrell said earlier, and it's awful nice of you to come all of this way. Let me ask, how exactly did you get here? Chugga, 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 choo-choo. Ah, you took the train. You guessed it. Well, it wasn't hard to do. You didn't have any trouble along the way, did you? Such as? Well, I was thinking about that time that you and Pluto took a long train ride. Oh, and the conductor told us no dogs allowed. Yes, that's exactly it. But you hid Pluto inside your suitcase, and then you snuck on board anyway. It sure was a tight fit. Yes, and I remember when you let him out, he was the shape of a square, and you had to unfold him. That's just when the conductor started to check our tickets. Oh, yeah, and the conductor tossed it, and I should say the conductor tossed it onto the luggage rack, didn't he? Yes, and Pluto started darking and gave both of us away. Yeah, well, the conductor sure was mad. Yes, he tried to throw us off the train. Both of us right then. Yes, and if I remember, you tried to run away and hide under a blanket. Yes, we did, and I think you would have gotten away with it too if Pluto hadn't started wagging his tail. It was a dead giveaway. After all that, you got tossed off the train anyway. Yes, but we landed at our final destination. That's true, you did. So it was a happy ending after all. Every ending is happy if you keep a positive attitude. Well, that's pretty good advice, Mickey, and I think you really did cheer us up. I did? Yes, I'm sure of it. Well, then it's time for me to go. All right, take care. N-I-C. No, Mickey, we've talked about this many times. You know that I don't like to sing in public. Don't worry, I'll do all the singing for you. Somehow that's not going to make a big difference in this case. N-I-C. See you real soon, I hope. K-E-Y. Why? Because I love you. N-O-U-S-E. Thank you for cheering us up, Mickey. See you next time.
Good. The meditation this morning was written by Andre Moll in honor of two Unitarians, Martha and Waite Stills Sharp, who during World War II dared to risk their own comfort, indeed their own lives, in order to help save the lives of Jews and others in Europe seeking escape from Nazi Germany. All that we share is sacred. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles where all that we share is sacred. May it be so.
Our reading today is from Micah. How shall I enter the Eternal's presence? Shall I come with sacrifices, with yearling calves to offer? Would the Eternal care for rams in thousands, or for oil flowing in myriad streams? What does the Eternal ask from you? But to be just and kind, and live in quiet fellowship with your God.
Before we hear the second cut from Paul Grove's album, which is right here, I wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, a very generous man. He's always refused honorarium that I've tried to give him for playing here. He's always wanted to give what he has. And I do think that the timing for this CD is particularly good. Paul strikes me as an avid environmentalist, and both of the songs you will hear today really appreciate this planet. And I want to read the dedication that he has given for this album. He says, I offer this recording in the most sincere and generous spirit that music inspires within me. There is no charge for this work. Whatever you would spend on the purchase of this CD, please instead share it with a person or living creature that needs food, water, shelter, or safety. So in that spirit, let's listen to Paul.
Never been rowed to a damn riverbank. There lies a gentle toad, a heart full of wisdom my mind cannot possess. Silence in the forest, what joy and happiness. Rainbow, kindness, mercy, love, a delicate waterfall descends like a dove. Mystery, all a wondrous stream, and what we know it ain't what it seems. What is was meant to be, was meant to be. Here are the trees, forever may they stand. The ocean sounds its mighty roar, forever on these sands. Earth and sky, a gentle lullaby. The turtles and the wildflowers beneath the summer sky. Rainbow, kindness and mercy, love, a delicate waterfall descends like a dove. Mystery, all a wondrous stream, and what we know it ain't what it seems. What is was meant to be, was meant to be. A horse that ain't never been rode to a damn riverbank. There lies a gentle toad, a heart full of wisdom that my mind cannot possess. Silence in the forest, what joy and happiness. Rainbow, kindness and mercy, love, a delicate waterfall descends like a dove. stream. And what we know, it ain't what it seems. What is was meant to be, was meant to be.
Wow, very, very nice, Paul. Thank you so much. A great song to sing on such a beautiful day, beautiful spring day, as well as a reminder of Earth Day this month, and our commitment as a congregation to environmental stewardship. I doubt if anybody would disagree that human beings have an innate need to be loved, which means being included and approved of by others in a variety of ways, in a variety of arenas. We want to be included and approved of within our families, among our peers and colleagues, in our local communities, and as citizens of our nations, and increasingly as citizens within the larger global village. Developmental psychologist Robert Keegan says that the two greatest yearnings of human life may be the yearning for inclusion, to be welcomed in, next to, held, connected with, a part of, and the yearning for distinctness, to be autonomous, independent, to experience my own agency, the self-chosenness of my purposes. And this is not unlike what Sigmund Freud once said. A great part of the struggles of mankind centers around the single task of finding some expedient, satisfying solution between these individual claims and those of the civilized community. It is one of the problems of man's fate, whether this solution can be arrived at in some particular form of culture, or whether the conflict will prove irreconcilable. For social psychologist Erich Fromm, this conflict between freedom and belonging is a fundamental source of human anxiety. The dilemma between standing out and blending in, between autonomy and getting along, between being true to ourselves and acceptable to others, is chronic, and our responses to it shapes who we become. The best that we can do is walk the tightrope and try to live a life that never completely satisfies either urge, but gives us some benefits of both. The worst we can do is break off one horn of this dilemma by becoming almost entirely absorbed by the will of others just to fit in, or by abandoning our responsibilities toward others to pursue our own self-interest and desires, even at the expense of everyone else. When we are first born, we remain one with our mothers for a few months before we begin recognizing a difference between ourselves and others. And about a year passes, Fromm says, before the child ceases to confuse itself with the universe. But as we begin to differentiate ourselves from others, we also begin to feel alone, which can be frightening and painful and undesirable. So we try to reestablish some semblance of our primary ties to Mother by connecting with others. This is why even the ancients often described ours as fundamentally a social species. It is why we have an innate need to find a group to be part of. This identity with nature, clan, religion gives the individual security, Fromm says, but it can also block our full development as human beings. Although they block one's development as a free, self-determining, productive individual, one does not suffer the worst of all pains, complete aloneness and doubt, according to Fromm. And this is an important point not to be missed. When it comes to the choice between freedom and belonging, Fromm, at least, believes we will most often choose belonging. We are so afraid of not fitting in and being left out and alone that we would do almost anything to avoid it, including sacrificing our own authenticity, fulfillment, and growth. In psychological terms, we would rather remain fixated or stuck at an early stage of development than to fully mature, individuate, and self-actualize. This is why Fromm's book is entitled Escape from Freedom. Because when the rubber meets the road, being truly free terrifies us, even if we have convinced ourselves that the ideas, feelings, and choices that we make are of our own volition. Ask an average newspaper reader what he thinks about a certain political question, Fromm says. He will give you as his opinion a more or less exact account of what he has read, and yet, and this is the essential point, he believes that what he is saying is the result of his own thinking. I'm reminded here of psychologist Carl Jung, who understood that we all must wear a kind of public mask, not the coronavirus mask. Choosing which part of our self that we will reveal to others to remain acceptable while concealing some of our most private thoughts and urges. What we see of the individual, he says, is the persona. We are all shells here, only surfaces, and we have very dim ideas of what we are inside. Having a persona is a normal part of human interaction and a usual means of resolving the dilemma between freedom and belonging. But such deception, which often deceives ourselves as much as anyone else, ultimately keeps us from fully unfolding as complete individuals. Most people believe that they are their mask, and thus they become neurotic, Jung says. But as soon as I say I'm only playing a role for the time to please you, I'm all right. But most of us are unconscious that we're only wearing a mask. How is it possible that we should mistake our social mask for our deeper selves? That we should come to believe that the ideas, feelings, and choices we make are of our own, or I should say are our own, and come from us when they have been culturally imposed upon us. It happens because of the usual and unhealthy solution to the problem of freedom and belonging. Rather than walking the uncertain and never completely satisfying balancing act between both needs, we make what Fromm refers to as the sadomasochistic solution. And he's not referring to sadomastic sex, although this may be a manifestation of what he means. For Fromm, the sadist is someone who seeks to control others, and the masochist is someone who desires to be controlled. Both are authoritarian personalities because they both accept that someone should be in charge of others and some should follow without question. In the attempt to establish secondary ties to surrogate mothers by connecting deeply with others to escape the feelings of being alone that occur on our path toward individuation, Fromm says we establish relationships based on submission and domination. Or, as we would rather put it, in the masochistic and sadistic strivings as they exist in varying degrees in normal and neurotic persons, respectively. In my opinion, this explains the unquestioning devotion to Donald Trump expressed by some, not all, of his supporters, especially those who made the foolhardy and deadly mistake of raiding the Capitol building on January 6th, earlier this year. But it also explains something seemingly even more inexplicable. How so many Republican leaders who despised him prior to winning the 2016 presidential election were among his most loyal supporters afterwards. Prior to 2016, Senator Lindsey Graham called him offensive, said his nomination would be an utter, complete, and total disaster, said he's destroying the Republican Party, and insisted, "I think Donald Trump is going to places where few people have gone, and I'm not going with him." Prior to the election, Senator Ted Cruz called Trump a pathological liar, a sniveling coward, nuts, kooky, and utterly immoral. And Senator Mitch McConnell, who sometimes publicly condemned what Trump said as outrageous and inappropriate, was later labeled his enabler-in-chief. An argument I don't think most of us would disagree with. How could such have happened in so many cases, especially from individuals whom we would expect, as some of our nation's top leaders, would be independent thinkers with wills of their own? To answer this, let's consider an example from Stanley Milgram's book, 1974 book on obedience and authority, based on his series of experiments in which subjects believed that they were electrocuting other subjects when instructed to do so by an authority. In a majority of cases, the subjects would obey the authority even if they didn't want to. In one twist on the experiment, in which two potential authority figures gave imposing instructions, the subjects were able to refuse their commands. It was only after one of them was able to establish authority that the subjects again fell in line and followed their commands even if they didn't want to. Authority systems must be based on people arranged in a hierarchy, Milgram says. Thus, the critical question in determining control is, who is over whom? That's what the authoritarian mindset, that's what the ape in us does in any situation. We go in, and the first thing we want to establish before we can function is figure out who's in charge. It's our nature. So just as soon as Trump became president, the who over whom, those who previously were able to maintain their independence from him also immediately fell in line and obeyed his commands without question or criticism. This is the sadomasochistic solution to the dilemma between freedom and belonging. We either become a sadistic authority by overcoming the wills of others, which enables us to feel close to them while maintaining our independence, or we become a masochistic authoritarian by allowing our wills to be absorbed by an authority, becoming, if you will, undifferentiated again, like an infant or even a fetus, while tricking ourselves into believing that our ideas and our feelings and our desires are of our own volition, that we are actually independent thinkers. The different forms which the masochistic strivings assume have one aim, Fromm says, to get rid of the individual self, to lose oneself. In other words, to get rid of the burden of freedom. And this is accomplished by submitting to a person or power which one feels as being overwhelming and strong. And yes, it should be alarming to all of us that the leadership of the UUA is now preaching that we are plagued by individualism. And it's a good point, because the authority in our lives can actually be the authority of a group, not necessarily an individual. Identifying with a group, also called tribalism, makes us feel close and safe to others, often also at the expense of our own authenticity. And likewise, we embrace the ideas, the feelings, and the desires of the group as if they are our very own, without question. When the tribe switch is turned on, Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt say in their book, The Coddling of the American Mind, we bind ourselves more tightly to the group, we embrace and defend the group's moral matrix, and we stop thinking for ourselves. This is the unconscious structure beneath today's so-called cancel culture, by which groups justify publicly condemning individuals who express ideas counter to their tribal dogma. In many cases, the individuals involved have adopted the group mentality as their own, believing, again, the ideas, feelings, and desires of the tribe originate from within themselves. Like McConnell and the others, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, we become apologists for the authoritarians in our lives, while not even recognizing that that's what we're doing. But in some cases, they do know better. People caught up in a group dynamic, they know better, but they're too frightened of being ostracized by the group themselves to speak up. Lukianoff and Haidt say, anyone who comes to the defense of the accused is obstructing the enactment of a collective ritual. Siding with the accused is truly an offense against the group, and it will be treated as such. If passions and fears are intense enough, people will even testify against their friends and family. Boy, don't I know that to be the case. The sadomasochistic solution to the problem of freedom and belonging also requires us to accept a perverted understanding of what love means, which truthfully is what I often think of when I get blanket emails from the UUA these days using the word love. Sorry, can't help it. Because in this dynamic, the concept of love, like the individuals who express it, is stuck at an immature stage of development. At most, it is filtered through a conventional mentality in which the idea of morality is based on social and cultural expectations. For some, this is a law and order mentality or a dogmatic authority in which the right thing for the individual to think and do is always based upon the rules or the rulers. For some, it's based on the expectation that the loving thing is to always keep the peace, no matter how determined or detrimental, I should say, to one's welfare. It is the masochistic ethic that leads too many individuals to remain or to return to abusive relationships. They consider the ability to forgive and embrace the abuser an example of their profound ability to love. In her book, A Different Voice, developmental psychologist Carol Gilligan says that this is the ethical mindset our society especially encourages and imposes upon females. That they are only moral if they are putting the needs of others before their own. Perhaps this is to be expected, given that it is our mothers who must give up so much during the first years of our lives to meet our needs. As we try to reestablish our primary bonds with surrogates, we naturally encourage females to continue filling this selfless role often at their own expense. Those who don't are made to feel ashamed of themselves, as if they are not good people because they think of their own well-being and needs. But this mindset is hard to overcome, and again is based on a conventional idea of morality that right and wrong is based upon what others expect of us. If we can fully mature, we can come to understand that love is something that must be extended to all selves, including to our own selves. Because at a higher level, the idea of love becomes a universal principle, not based on rules, not based on specific individuals, but a principle that must be universally applied, a categorical imperative, if you will. If we cannot extend this same respect and care for ourselves that we extend to others, then we cannot love. As self-fulfilled, self-actualized, individuated, mature individuals, we cannot allow ourselves to be continually martyred for the sake of others. That's not love. Being the giving tree that gives everything of itself until all that is left is an old stump for somebody else to sit on is not love. As a minister, I recognize this false ethic far too often. For there are some who believe that I should never stand up for myself, that I should do whatever others expect of me and anything else to keep the peace. They think that love means being a pushover who avoids conflict and upset feelings at all cost. And I like to think that I'm a kind and a respectful person most of the time, and am willing to compromise with others, which is what being relational is all about. But those who have known me for a long time also know that I'm not going to sacrifice my well-being or my values to make other people feel good. That's not my job. I'm not responsible for what others feel, nor are you. We must all learn to cope with our own feelings and with living in a world with over 7 billion people who think differently and feel differently and behave differently than we do. We cannot allow ourselves to be absorbed by the wills of others because of an immature and perverted understanding of what love means. So let me begin to wind up by talking about what healthy love looks like. First, love is not listed as a primary emotion because it isn't. It is a behavior that can easily be extended to everyone, whether we like them or not. Because like is a feeling. Love is not. Fromm says that the most fundamental kind of love which underlies all types of love includes the sense of responsibility, care, respect, knowledge of any other human being, the wish to further that person's life. Keeping this definition of love in mind when considering the problem of freedom and belonging, we see that it is neither sadistic nor masochistic. Although it requires us to respect and care for the well-being of others, it does not require us to do so at our own expense, at least not at the expense of our own welfare and well-being. As selves, it requires us to love ourselves too, but also prioritizing our well-being, although not doing so at the expense of others. Again, as Fromm puts it, the idea expressed in the biblical love thy neighbor as thyself implies that respect for one's own integrity and uniqueness, love for and understanding of one's own self, cannot be separated from respect and love and understanding for another individual. The love for my own self is inseparably connected with the love for any other being. The love for my own self is inseparably connected with the love for any other being. This then is the solution to the dilemma always before us between freedom and belonging, not the sadomasochistic solution that results in authoritarian relationships. For centuries, Unitarianism and liberalism in general has been about establishing communities based upon a common commitment to our human welfare and the unfolding of every individual. Ours has been a type of contradiction in which these two opposites, society and the individual, freedom and belonging, can coexist in healthy and supportive ways. Ours is, or at least used to be, and still should be, a community that doesn't dread individual expression, but encourages and supports it. Just think of those principles that we claim epitomize our values and the basis of our coming together as Unitarian Universalists. The worth and dignity of every person, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. These principles are neither sadistic nor masochistic, neither selfish nor utterly selfless. Rather, they are rooted in love of both self and others, fully embracing the well-being and growth of every person, so that instead of dreading individual exceptionalism, we can embrace it and we can encourage it. May it be so.
Well, the last hymn is really, I think, about love for this planet, and by doing so, love for each of us, for ourselves and all others. We're going to be doing For the Earth Forever Turning. There are 4 verses, and it's 163 if you happen to have a hymnal at home.
Today with words by Eleanor Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives in the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Chalice